Hello, everyone, and welcome to a snowy Tuesday on The Harvest Show. And you know, everyone is fascinated with outer space, and who doesn't look up at the planets and the stars and wonder if there could be life on other planets? Well, today, Navy pilot and spacecraft engineer Austin Boyd gives us a glimpse into the world of NASA and space technology that may cause you to rethink what you believe, Stephen.
A Navy pilot, nuclear weapons officer, and spacecraft engineer, Austin Boyd flew 3,000 hours in war and peacetime operations, designed satellites, and invented classified devices to track terrorists. A NASA astronaut finalist, he ultimately served as the Navy's Director of Space Plans and Policy before retiring to Huntsville, Alabama, where he has just completed his third novel in his Mars Hills classified series. So we can't really call it retiring, but we're thrilled to have you here with us. What a story you've got.
Thank you very much, Deborah. It's a real pleasure to be here with you and Kelly.
Now, do we start with aliens or do we jump into his story?
Well, we'll save the aliens. Well, because, you know, you trained to be an astronaut. And this, you know, yesterday as I was going through your book, I was telling my son, I'm going to meet, you know, an astronaut candidate. And he was fascinated. I think the majority of people are fascinated with astronauts and the whole space thing. And you actually felt called to be an astronaut by God.
I did.
At an early age. So what was that like?
Well, I was 12 years old, feeding some rabbits, had this sudden sense that everything got quiet, and I felt I was, somehow the words were, and, you know, it's hard to know when God's talking to us, but we sense these words that you will make a difference. And the odor, the feeling of that was astronaut. So when I was 12 years old, I began planning for, training for to become an astronaut. No one would believe you at age 12. In high school, graduating in West Virginia, nobody really believed it. Went off to Rice, got a scholarship, went in the Navy, became a Navy pilot, tried hard, finally made it all the way to Houston for the interviews, but I was never finally selected. I was a candidate finalist, but with some other folks like Rick Husband, who was the commander of the Columbia mission. But it was a wonderful, wonderful call from God to prepare me, and then when I didn't make it, my wife was very sick. We left the Navy. I came to find that I still had that burning desire to be an astronaut, but I couldn't be one. So I decided to write about it. And now I know that God had to walk me through doors for 40 years to prepare me to be able to write about this experience that shows up in my series.
But you know, I want to go back to this process of chasing your dream, because I think there's a lot of people out there, they've got a vision and a dream, and they're in that process of really chasing hard after it. So at the pinnacle of looking like you were going to have this dream, you, because of following Christ, you made a very, very tough decision. You committed to family, and you laid down your Isaac, or you laid down your dream. That couldn't have been easy.
That was the hardest thing I've ever done. And one of the things I try to write about through all three books is to try to capture that problem. The issue is when you feel called by God to mission, and you have a marital, godly commitment to marriage, how do you balance the two? My wife asked me once, would you go, Austin, even if you knew you'd die? We knew Mike Smith, who died on the Challenger, and then I knew Rick Husband, who was on, or I knew of Rick Husband, who was on Columbia. And I had to answer, yes, I'd go. But when faced in my particular situation with a decision to keep chasing astronaut or take care of Cindy, I made the decision for Cindy. And that's never easy. There's no pat answer. There's no formula. You have to prayerfully seek God's wisdom and His will in those particular situations. And that's what we were faced with.
And so then once you made this decision, you must have had your peers. What was their reaction?
Well, most of them said, Austin, as a matter of fact, I remember many people asked me, did you get it wrong? The ones who were not Christians said, you've always told us God called you to be an astronaut, and you didn't make it. So what's it like to realize you blew it? And I said, I don't believe that God has given up on me yet. I feel called to a journey, not a destination. And I think that's a really important point for a lot of people when they don't see the immediate results. Go seek out Hebrews 11. In Hebrews 11 it says that many of those people never received the promise that they were given, and yet all of us together are able to show forth God's faith. We're all in this together. So it's our journey and their journey together that makes faith whole.
You bring out a lot of science things, for lack of a better word, in your book that many people could say that it may be contradictory to faith. Like, for one of the things that you do have aliens in the book. So my question to you first is, do you believe that there is life on other planets?
Well, I'll tell you that once you reach the end of the third book, you'll have a different view, perhaps. But
I can't wait. Come on, Austin.
But my personal view is that God doesn't tell us everything, and that every week, every year, new revelations come about that expose us to new elements of His creation. What I want people to do with the book, without answering your question exactly, Kelly, is to have people ask the question, what if? What if tomorrow a green man pops up on Mars or comes rocketing down in a spaceship? Will my faith be rocked by that revelation? If your faith isn't grounded in a relationship with Christ, then your faith is grounded in the wrong place. I had someone tell me once that if I met an alien, I wouldn't believe in Jesus. And that's what started me writing the series, because I said, why would these sudden revelations change the foundation of your faith? Faith is about a relationship, not about the existence of life on Mars. Do I believe it's there? There may be microbes, but I won't go beyond that right now.
Okay.
You touch on a lot of very sophisticated things inside your book about concerning NASA and just some of the, I don't even know how to use the right words, but what are some aha things that you've experienced that the average American, when they hear about it, they go, wow?
Well, one of them is at the very opening of the first book, you've seen some issues with regard to terrorism vulnerabilities. And an aha moment for me in the Navy, when I was working in classified programs and building tracking systems to follow terrorists, was how vulnerable our country is to terror. And the beauty of that vulnerability is that we're very rarely attacked. So an aha moment for me was how open we are, yet how safe we are, which is a real interesting dichotomy. The second one was the existence of many of the robotic technologies that you see in this book are here today. I do not write about anything that is science fiction. I write about real technologies that I put together in a fictional plot. So one of the aha moments for me as I researched the book was how advanced we are, but many people don't know about it, so I seek to teach them a little bit in the book.
You know, one of the things I kind of struggle with as a parent is how science is taught in the schools, or just science in general. Do you believe that science and religion, or science and faith, can kind of coexist?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the neat thing about science is that science validates faith. As we discover more and more about the universe, we're discovering the grandeur of God's creation, and many of the things that we're discovering today are leading scientists back to faith. There is a huge groundswell of scientists now who are now walking back toward God rather than walking away from Him. And I think that the two, one validates the other.
One of the things that I love that you do is you communicate very simply and powerfully the gospel in your books without hitting people over the head. And so you have, really, is this the mission statement behind the reason?
That's exactly right, Deborah. I wanted to be able to make a difference. I wanted to be able to share the gospel, but not with a sermon between two covers. Instead, some way of giving someone a character that they want to be more like, or something that they want to know more about. So we have a large American Booksellers Association audience, the secular bookstores, because I want people to learn more about Christ by just discovering things they like in these books.
So, you know, going back, you know, when it's all said and done, you know, God could come to you and say, Austin, I'm going to let you have an astronaut career, and you're going to do this, and you're going to have this accolades. Or, if you'll let me sacrifice your dream, this dream and vision, I'm going to put you before thousands and millions, and you're going to bring, your heart's going to be a highway through which thousands come into the kingdom of God. Because what God, the dream He had, the vision He had, was far bigger than what you thought.
That's right.
And so, how does it make you feel to see people come to Christ, to see that the need of Jesus is being met, and that He's put you out in a mission field with what you suffered through with your life?
I've got tingle bumps right now just running through me, and I'll tell you a short story that'll answer how I feel about that. I was praying in Mount Hermon, California, back in the Redwood Forest at a little chapel, asking why it was after 40 years of trying to be an astronaut and then writing, all of a sudden publishers were falling over trying to compete for a chance to publish my book. And I had a sense again in my heart like that day when I was 12. 40 years later, and the sense said, this is what I prepared you to do. It is time. And I had this incredible sense that I walked that path to be ready for this day, and I just want to be available to Him now. And it's scary, because now you know you really do have a mission. I could be with my friends, many of them, in NASA right now, but this is where God's called me.
Right. Now, this is the third book is due out July 4th, right?
July 4th,
July 4th,
that's right.
Independence Day. Anything in the future? Any more series in the future?
I have many series we're in work on. One I'll tell you a little bit about is related to biotech. And again, it's the question of what if. Right. Many of us don't realize what's going on around us in the world of biotechnology and bioethics. And I just tell you that that's where the series is headed. I won't say more yet.
Okay.
And listen, we are so thrilled that you were here. People can go to harvest-tv.com and they can get your books that way. It'll be shipped directly to you, harvest-tv.com. Thank you so much for sharing your heart here on The Harvest Show.